To What Does the Bible Say? Mike Robertson here with you, hosting tonight. Thankful that you have tuned in with us, and we are very thankful for another chance to be on live with you. Important information that we're dealing with, of course, dealing with Bible information. Would help if I got mic'd up. Took it off for a moment. All right, there we go. Now you can hear me. Hear me good. We are going to continue our discussion of some more of this issue that's coming out of Danville, Virginia, with the casino information, because, ladies and gentlemen, especially here in the Martinsville area, we have a need to stand up and be vocal as to what's going to happen in the city of Danville. While we were there for the city council meeting, we were met with a lot of smugness, especially myself and Caleb, because we do not live in Danville. Caleb works in Danville, so you would think that his voice would have some type of weight, some importance to the city council there. But basically, as soon as they found out, well, you're not citizens of Danville, Mr. Larry Campbell, when being questioned by Caleb, as soon as he found that out, it's just, okay, conversation's over, which he was already done, but just because he found out that we were recording. But he's on city council. What does he expect? But we need to make sure that we are doing our part, not only here in Martinsville, but also in Danville, in Eden. Individuals are needing to make sure that they are expressing their concerns for this issue, because we've already been in contact. One of our brethren who lives in Eden has been in contact with a friend of his that owns a sweepstakes actually in Reidsville, North Carolina, and she's even admitting that if a casino and resort were to come to Danville, Virginia, it would not be good for the sweepstakes business. So even those that are involved in charge of gambling places of work or gambling organizations, they realize what it is that gambling does. Gambling is not concerned, gambling organizations are not concerned about helping others in the community. It's just every man for himself when it comes to that type of organization. So feel free to contact us, get in touch with us, come out and visit with us. Martinsville and Danville, keep up to date with us on YouTube and Facebook. Come out or rather, make sure you tune into our other programs Sunday nights at 9 p.m., Thursday nights at 8 p.m. Caleb Robertson is planning to host the Thursday night program. I'm sure he'll be dealing with this information as well, be looking at it from different aspects. You might be thinking to yourself, well, how in the world are you going to be able to keep going just off of one city council meeting? And I think with the combined footage that Caleb and I both got, it might be around 10 minutes altogether, full footage, just because those individuals there were not wanting to talk to us about this information. And ladies and gentlemen, ultimately what it is that they are attempting to change the narrative. There's a story that's being told. There's a concept, there is a persuasion that is being that actually is underlying in this situation. We're viewing something that is within itself bad for the community. It is a vice. It is a lust. And lust of the flesh, those are things that we are supposed to stay away from. And it's not just a Christian type of thing. It's not just a moral thing, but in fact, if we fall into this trap of immorality, it's going to breed from it economic problems, and it's just going to continue to breed more immoral activities, which we've discussed some of those on the past shows of What Does the Bible Say, looking at crime, the reports, the commissions that are being done by the government, things that have gone before presidents, 1999, the president, Congress, and even tribal leaders, those that would be considering out on Indian reservations to build casinos. And these reports are being made and they're being told to the community, these are the things that we're finding. And in fact, one of those reports that we discussed Sunday night says that, not surprisingly, that when a casino goes up, what also goes up? Crime is going to go up. But when we're discussing a changing of the narrative, and as we're looking at this from, we're dealing with the issue of city council and building a casino. This is not only something that's going on with city council, but it's also something that's going on within the religious world. Religious leaders, along with civil leaders, are I won't say constantly, but they are involved in trying to change the narrative. Now here's what I mean. What if I were to tell you that donuts could actually be healthy for you? That if you were to eat donuts, that you could in fact be able to live a healthier life. Well, in the 1940s, that's exactly what you had going on. You had the government, and they ended up producing vitamin donuts. And what it was during World War II, the U.S. government was worried that its people on the home front were not getting all the nutrition they needed to stay at the top of their game and fight the good fight from home. In order to keep those home fires burning, we looked at new and creative ways to get around wartime rationing, as well as some pretty fun ways to make sure kids and adults alike were getting all their vitamins. Studies done in the early 1940s seem to back up the importance of one vitamin in particular, and that being B1, or thiamine. At the 1941 National Nutrition Conference for Defense, scientists called it the vitamin that made, quote, life seem tremendously worth living, end quote. And it was one of the vitamins that kicked off the supplement revolution that we're still in the middle of today. According to the research, thiamine was responsible for giving people everything from improved attitude and good digestion to a healthy complexion. The New York Times called it the morale vitamin, and it was supposedly responsible for giving us all the energy we needed to get through the day and perform at our peak capacity. Now that all sounds good, but what's the problem? The problem is that it is still a donut. Now you can build it up and you can try to repackage it and saying, well, this is what it's got in it and here are all the benefits, but what is it still at the end of the day? It's still a donut. You can try to change the narrative on it and say, well, no, well, yeah, it is a donut, but it's a healthy donut. There's no such thing. Even with what you try to put into it, it's still not going to change what it is. The supposed findings spawned a huge movement for thiamine-enhanced products. Patents were even taken out on thiamine-enhanced tobacco. Now, how about that one? Here, it's not just with donuts. Okay, here's something that people all love, they all have, and since they all have it and they all love it, well, let's just try to repackage it, redesign it, redescribe it to, into being something better for you. But it's still a donut. And what about this right here? Well, let's start putting thiamine in tobacco. It's still tobacco. It's still going to be bad for you. But our favorite is still the vitamin donuts. Posters featuring pretty standard-looking plain donuts and slightly manic-looking children advertise vitamin donuts. Let's go back to our rosy cheek. Yeah, they're okay. Vitamin donuts for, quote, for pep and vigor. The donuts were supposedly enhanced with a minimum of 25 units of vitamin B, and it went without saying that it was your patriotic duty to start your morning off right with some pep donuts. Now, what this is describing is very much the same thing that is centered around the building of this casino. Building a casino, building a resort, there's a lot of negativity that goes along with it. But what are they trying to do with it? Well, let's just listen to what they're trying to do. From City Council, here's the Vice Mayor, Lee Vogler, on it.
Vice Mayor.
Yeah, just real quickly, I had a couple things I wanted to say that, and like Councilman Shanks, I've gotten a lot of feedback, strong opinions for and against, but the majority have been in favor of. Because this is the most significant economic development opportunity Danville's seen in my lifetime. We're talking about nearly 7,000 jobs and over $1 billion into our local economy over the next decade. I believe we as a city council owe it to the people of Danville to let them decide if they want to support this or not. And I want to be clear that what council's doing tonight.
Did you notice how they're trying to package it? What narrative are they trying to give?
My lifetime. We're talking about nearly 7,000 jobs and over $1 billion into our local economy over the next decade.
This donut has a minimum of 25 units of vitamin B. That makes it healthy. That makes it good for you. No, it's still a donut. This casino is going to bring 7,000 jobs and $1 billion worth of revenue. It's good for you. It's healthy. No, it's still a casino. It's still going to end up robbing from our community to where even with, let's just say, let's grant them that what they're saying about $1 billion worth of revenue that actually ends up happening. That revenue is going to have to go to make up areas where citizens are not able to meet their responsibilities in paying taxes and different things like that because they don't have any money. It all went to the casino. So that money that you're actually getting from the casino is not anything extra, but it is in fact the money you would have already been getting from your citizens through taxes. And that's the issue with the casino and even with the lottery. The lottery, and here's, but before we get into the lottery, notice this. Notice the end of what is being described here. It went without saying that it was your patriotic duty to start your morning off right with some pep donuts. So not only are they trying to change the narrative in that, well, it's a donut, but we've made it better. We've inserted vitamins, so that makes it healthy. No, it's still a donut. But then they start trying to put you on a guilt trip that if you are not eating these donuts and you're not getting your vitamin B1, your thiamine, then what? You're not a good civil servant. You're not a good patriot. You're not keeping your responsibilities to keep the home fires burning and keeping up with production of the different things that our soldiers need over on the front lines. And that's exactly what the Virginia Lottery is trying to do. The Virginia Lottery and all of their advertisement, what's it about? Helping education, helping schools, helping helping young students be able to get a better education. So what if you don't play the Virginia Lottery? Well, you must not care about the children. See what's going on? Now, all that's not just blatantly out there, that's all subliminal. Look at all the good that the lottery is doing. Look at how it's helping. Why aren't you wanting to help? There are better ways to help. We're not needing to change a narrative and bring about a different description so as to take something that is bad and paint it up and try to make it look like it's going to be good. It's still bad. It's still a donut. Casino and resort, it is still gambling. It's still going to end up robbing from the community. It's still going to end up bringing disastrous results. So as we're considering this, vitamin donut, still a donut. City Council passing so as to, investigate into building a casino or resort. It's still a casino. It's still gambling. It's not going to produce the desired results, and let's not forget, and of course, my Windows Media program is not going to cooperate. Let me back out of here. Back out of this. So let's be able to find it. Here we go. Let's all remember what this really is all about.
Councilman Saunders.
Mr. Mayor, this is clearly an emotional issue on both sides, for and against this issue. It all comes down to money, revenue. It all comes down to money, revenue. It all comes down to money, revenue. I think that's the key. Revenue. I think that's the key. Come down to money, revenue. I think that's the key.
That's what it's all about. They're not concerned about what the negatives are going to be. And in fact, in the city council meeting, there was no mention. There was no even bringing up of any of the negatives. What is it? Well, it's got 25 units of vitamin B. Well, yeah, but what else does it have in it? Oh, we're not going to discuss that bad stuff. Let's discuss the good things. And even with this, it's just supposed good things. I mean, let's go back to that donut situation. Doesn't this sound like doesn't this sound too good to be true? Man, a vitamin donut, something that can actually taste good like I want it to and still be healthy for me, that just sounds too good to be true. It's because it is. Now, what about what it was that the picture that they were painting just a moment ago? Vice Mayor Lee Vogler, 7,000 jobs, $1 billion worth of revenue. Doesn't that just sound too good to be true? What's the catch? What's their angle? What game are they playing? And really, ladies and gentlemen, that's what it is. It's all a game. Let's go to our documentary here where individuals are trying to get casinos in Florida, and what we're needing to do in Virginia is the very same thing that they're doing in Florida. Florida has established their own committee that their main job and main purpose is to keep Las Vegas style gambling out of Florida. So here we go. Listen to their promises.
Malaysian casino conglomerate Genting plans to build the largest casino in the world in Miami. It would have more gambling under one roof than 6 of the largest casinos on the Vegas Strip combined. To sell their deal, the industry is making promises that the taxpayers of Atlantic City would find very familiar.
The industry was sort of back here again in the state of Florida. And it was almost exactly word for word for some of the same kind of promises and presentation I had heard 30 years ago in New Jersey. I mean, it was insulting.
When big casinos return to Florida, the push is led by Nevada's Las Vegas Sands and Malaysia's Genting. The goal: restructure Florida's regulatory system to make way for mega casinos, remaking Florida in the image of Vegas. The timing was no coincidence. Still reeling from the Great Recession, the Sunshine State was hungry for revenue and desperate for jobs.
We need all jobs, any jobs.
They come at us when we're down, when we're weak, when the economy is bad. They try and lure our elected officials and our voters with the promise of more jobs and bountiful government revenue.
Every time I've seen some major movement in trying to do some expansion, it usually happens in the environment where they're trying to balance the budget, and suddenly this submarine comes up from underwater of how I can solve all your problems, and you can get something for nothing.
That sounds a lot like what's going on in Danville, Virginia right now. The economy is depressed, there's no economic development, which I would say that in downtown Danville, they actually are making some improvements. They're getting more restaurants in downtown Danville. Downtown Danville's looking a lot nicer. That's what they're needing to invest their money in. Keep building that up. Not bring in this casino that you're thinking is going to be a quick fix. Did you hear how the gentleman described it? The submarine that comes from underneath and says, I can solve all your problems. Get you something for nothing. That's not how things are fixed. It's going to take hard work.
That's a false promise.
This industry is to create 100,000 jobs. 70% will be minorities and women. We will guarantee half the seats of non-stop flights and charters from Asia Pacific. Asia Pacific, Europe, the export market. We're talking of 4 to 6 million visitors. I guarantee you there'll be 10 Global Express flying non-stop to Shanghai, Beijing, and to Hong Kong, okay, every day. 50, 100,000 jobs, up to 1.7 billion for the state, maximize benefits for everybody. I think everyone is a winner in this game.
It's an industry that makes its living off of convincing people to make bets. You got a very good chance of making a lot of money here. Of course, you have a greater chance of losing a huge amount of money and a bunch of other things that are important to you as well.
These were such absurd claims that even the sponsor of the bill that would have legalized his casinos basically said, that's ridiculous. Stop saying it. You're hurting your case.
Sounds too good to be true, doesn't it? Sounds just like a vitamin donut. And at the end of the day, it's not any healthier for you. It's still a donut. They can make all these promises, and ladies and gentlemen, all it comes down to is just the love of money. They're greedy. They that will be rich fall into temptation and a snare and into many foolish and hurtful lusts which drown men in destruction and perdition. That's all Danville, Virginia is heading for. Because what is it? It's just a quick fix. Instead of putting their funds, putting their investments into real honest work. Gambling is not real honest work. It's a scheme, it's a way in which I can get rich quick. And the way that I'm getting rich quick is not even by producing anything, it's from stealing from somebody else. That's all gambling is. So here's the city of Danville, and they are ultimately promoting and they are encouraging stealing from one another. The casino comes in, people go in, they steal your money. What will people end up doing? As we saw Sunday night, the commission, the report, found that people that are caught up in the gambling cycle, 80 to 90% of them end up committing some type of crime so as to fulfill their gambling habit. That's what it's going to end up producing. So the promises that they make, it will not meet the demands. The cry is for education. Now, ladies and gentlemen, we already have an establishment put into place in the state of Virginia, and that being the lottery. And here is an email from Lee Vogler to one of our brethren who's assisting us in this, and he's not even in this area, but because of the cry that's going out that we're trying to produce and promote, he's given some assistance, and this is a response that came from Lee Vogler when asked about the lottery money that we were questioning about Sunday night. Over 31 years, $155 million would have been in a, let's say they saved it, let's say they did not spend it. They would have $155 million from the lottery. That comes to around $5 million per year, as what Mr. Saunders said. That money went towards salaries and other expenses. Council doesn't determine the breakdown of school funding. Our elected school board does that. Notice this. City Council, we can only allocate funds. They can decide, City Council decides, where it is that the money goes. Well, has that money been going towards the schools? $5 million over a 31-year time frame? Why are the schools in such disarray? Why are they in such decay? And that's what we were trying to bring about. You know, that's the question we were asking Sunday night. Is it going towards schools like the cry is, or is it being allocated? You might be saying, well, what is that he's actually getting at, allocated? Well, here's Larry Campbell on the same topic. Thank you for your concern. Yes, the first option would be for schools, but we would have the choice to use tax revenue anywhere city chose, or choose. Should be chose. Just typo. So what do we have City Council saying? The very question, you know, it's a type of answer to the question we were asking this past Sunday night. Is it going towards the schools like you're saying it is? Or in fact, is City Council moving it around in all these different places? And if it is the case that it's being moved around in all these different places, then what extra money is going towards the schools? Why are we really believing that a casino then, if we already have the lottery, why are we believing then that the casino is going to be able to produce any extra money? Why not just have citizens be able to pay their taxes? Now, I'm not saying anything about a tax increase. I'm just saying remove these things to where people can meet their responsibilities. They're not being tempted. So you actually have local government involved in the temptation of men and women in this regard. Now here's the other side of it as we're considering these points. How is it these men are even reasoning? What's the logic behind their thinking of, well, let's go ahead and allow a casino to come in to Danville, Virginia. We're going to take a trip back in time, back to when Martinsville City Council, I believe it's Martinsville City Council, it might be somewhere in the Henry County area that was involved in it. But anyway, our local government was wanting to buy the cable company. And there was a line of questioning that ended up being brought up that these individuals were needing to consider that they would actually be involved in a certain type of business. So let's go back in time and let's listen to this clip and listen to the reasoning that takes place.
Concerning.
Hey, the cable buy, what do you think about all that?
Well, we're learning a lot about it, and I don't know that there's a lot of comment I can make at this point, except that I'm anxious to get all the studies back and to take a good close look at it and see what it looks like.
Right. Just talking with Matt Hankins, he said if you bought it, you'd have to have the adult channels that Adelphia has right now, the Triple X. And would you feel comfortable with that?
Well, I think the community has already defined what is acceptable to them. Those channels are acceptable apparently now because they are available.
Right.
So I don't think that we can change that.
The Triple X. And would you feel comfortable with that?
Well, I think the community has already defined what is acceptable to them. Those channels are acceptable apparently now because they are available.
Right.
So I don't think that we can change that.
The triple X, and would you feel comfortable with that?
Well, you know, I think the community has already defined what is acceptable to them. Those channels are acceptable apparently now because they are available.
Right.
So I don't think that we can change that.
Okay.
So what's the thinking on the matter? Well, those channels are already here, so the citizens, the community must have already determined that this is acceptable, so I don't see how we would be able to change it. That's the exact same type of logic that was coming out of the city council meeting in Danville, Virginia. Now, I'll try to play this clip. So we'll hopefully be able to hear.
Well, I was under the impression that we were going to get to voice some opinion with the agenda item. Here it says, citizens who desire to speak on agenda items will be heard when the agenda item.
You did that.
Well, he opened with things not on the agenda. That's my confusion. But anyway, my wonder now is, like, the whole time they were calling you Reverend candidate, why not go ahead and say from the...
Are you recording me?
Yes, sir. Why not say, from the religious candidate?
Well, my opinion is this. First of all, you should have told me that you're a recorder.
We don't have to do that.
Yes,
By
you do.
law, we don't have to do
Thank you, sir.
So you said your opinion is, and you started.
You should have told me you were recording.
So you don't want to talk about the
You should have told me that you recorded me.
They call you Reverend.
You should have told me that you had recorded me.
But you didn't want to actually give any type of negative opinion because there's plenty to be had.
My belief is, number one, I am not for gambling.
Okay.
I'm not for lottery. I'm not for gambling.
Okay. Negative opinion because there's plenty to be had.
My belief is, number one, I am not for gambling.
Okay.
So his belief is that he's not for gambling. Let's keep going with this.
I'm not for lottery. I don't. I am a city council. Look at the total application. As far as I know, gambling is already here. We have the lottery. As far as I know, gambling is already here. We have the lottery. As far as I know, gambling is already here. We have the lottery. True. We have alcohol.
But that doesn't mean we have to further, does it?
Pardon?
I mean, because it's already here does not mean that we have to then open the floodgates to let it come in, do we?
Why you saying the floodgates?
Well, you would certainly agree that...
You live in Danville?
No, sir, I don't.
So there it is. Do you live in Danville? You Danville citizen? Well, no. Well, I don't have to talk to you about this. Well, yes, you do, because this is going to involve us in Martinsville. But did you hear what he said? My belief is this: I don't believe in gambling. I don't believe gambling is right. But he's on city council, and the way that he sees it, gambling's already here. They have the lottery. Well, what does that mean? That's the same reasoning that you had coming from Martinsville City Council. I recognize the walls there. That's Martinsville City Council in 2005 with adult films coming through the cable. Well, it's already here. The people must think that it's acceptable. But the thing is that earlier in 1987, per Mr. Saunders, the city of Danville voted no for the Virginia lottery. Now, here's what I don't understand. Mr. Campbell's reasoning is, well, it's already here, so why stop with the lottery? Let's just keep going with the casino. It's already here. But the thing is that Danville citizens had already voted and said no. But it passed anyways. So why did the city of Danville, if they voted no, why did they even allow it to come in? They didn't have to allow it to come in. They still could have kept it out of their grocery stores, out of their gas stations. Well, the state passed it, so I guess we'll just go ahead and go along with it. That's not how this is needing to operate. If you're saying, no, we don't want this, just because the majority then overrules you and says, well, we're going to have this, does not mean that we then have to go along with it. And that's what Mr. Campbell was needing to do as well. If you don't believe in gambling and you do not gamble, then vote no. If you're realizing that this is bad, it's not going to help, then just vote no. But instead, what is he saying? Well, lottery's already here, so let's just roll with it. But Danville did not even want the lottery to start with. But yet it's here. Ladies and gentlemen, that reasoning is not valid. It's not something that we're needing to follow after. Just because something is available, then it must be acceptable. Well, here's what. You have an 11-year-old dressing up as a drag queen in New York City. His parents take him to a club, and they end up throwing money at this 11-year-old in New York City. Well, it's available. It's entertainment, and people are involved in it, so it must be acceptable. Is that really where we're going to go with this? But we're already in that line of thought, and that our government is looking at this and saying, well, and individuals are viewing it as, in the same light, well, we cannot get rid of it, so let's tax it. If we cannot get rid of it and we cannot defeat it, then let's just join it and let's make sure that we're making a profit off of it. What did Mr. Saunders say? The key to this is money. We cannot get rid of it, which in fact they could have. Danville, Virginia voted no for the lottery. So keep it out. And in fact, you would have had Danville, Virginia as being a case study that would show a contrast between the rest of the cities in Virginia that did have it and one that did not. And let's just see who actually improves. Let's see who's actually able to do better. But instead, they took the defeatist mentality. Well, we lost, so we might as well go with it and we'll tax it so that we can get some profit off of it. That's exactly what states are doing with marijuana. Well, marijuana's out there. People are involved in it. We cannot get rid of it, so let's tax it. And that's going to make everything better. No, it's not going to make anything better. You're just going to have the same amount of problems, except now the government benefits. And we, as the people, we lose. The House always wins. I mean, just look, for example, what's going on in Vancouver. And it's not just going on in Vancouver, but it's also going on in the United States. Vancouver offers drug users a safe place to shoot up. Well, heroin, cocaine, can't stop it, so let's just give people a safe place to where they can use it. Ridiculous. In the United States, there's perennial controversy surrounding harm reduction programs, the idea that governments should try to mitigate the dangers of certain behaviors, even if those behaviors are inherently risky. Needle exchange programs might decrease drug addicts' risk of contracting HIV and other diseases, but opponents say they're a government-approved green light to shoot up. What do we need to do? We're not just needing to roll over. We're not just needing to give up. Keep fighting on this. I'm not wanting this. This is ridiculous. What this is like is saying, well, people are going to drink, and they're going to drink and then they're going to drive, so just make a drunk driver lane and that'll make everything better. No, all you're going to have is a bunch of drunk drivers running into each other in this lane. That's not going to decrease the number of drunk driving fatalities. That's not the way to go about this. If you're wanting to fix the problem, then address the problem. Cut this nonsense out. Do not try to make ways in which they can legitimize what it is that they're doing. And all that is trying to change the narrative. This is bad for you, but we're going to put you in an area where you can do it safely. People are still, the fact that you have them there with medical professionals that are doing it under supervision of medical professionals. What is that but enabling? You're just feeding the cycle. We're not needing to give up on these things. We're needing to continue to fight. And as we're looking at this issue, what this ultimately is, Proverbs 17:13, whoso rewardeth evil for good, evil shall not depart from his house. And that's what the city of Danville is trying to do. They're trying to flip the script. They're trying to change the narrative. They're trying to pass this along, reward it as being something good, when in fact, what is it? It's evil. And what does the Bible say about it? Evil shall not depart from his house. The city of Danville, in that house, all it's going to produce is more wickedness. Isaiah 5 and verse 20, woe unto them that call evil good and good evil, that put darkness for light and light for darkness, that put bitter for sweet and sweet for bitter. That's exactly what's going on. And who's standing against it? They already have support from the Pentecostal sector. Alonzo Jones and Mr. Larry Campbell, Mr. Jones and Mr. Campbell, they're both Board of Trustee members over at Bible Way Cathedral. Mr. Shank, they called him Reverend, and he led the prayer before City Council started. How did he vote? He voted yes. Does he gamble? Well, tune into the Thursday night show to find out his response. I'm sure Caleb will be using that footage. I've been doing my best not to use all of it so that others can, be able to do their broadcast. What's going on here? Well, this has problems. This has negative side effects, but we're going to produce it as being a good thing. The Bible says, woe to those people. You reward evil for good, evil shall not depart from his house. What are we trying to do? The Church of Christ, Christians in this area, we're doing our very best to educate the community, to inform the community, so that we can all speak out against this. That's what's needing to happen. We're not needing to let this go by. We are striving to do our very best. As we're looking at this, this alone. Are we going to let this slide? And in fact, Thursday night, one of the first ones who stood up to discuss business not on the agenda, he brought up to City Council that he requested for them to consider involving themselves in taxation of places of adult entertainment, like what you have being discussed here by Ben Shapiro. Well, what if we wanted to incorporate a younger form of entertainment for those that are persuaded towards this type of entertainment? Well, there's a demand. Are people involved in it? Well, obviously they're already involved in it. The government going to start taxing that too? You see what's happening? The government is not at all concerned about the moral issue. We, as the citizens, are needing, and more specifically, members of the Church of Christ, are needing to dictate and guide the moral compass based upon what does the Bible say. We're not needing to follow the majority on this. Now, some might look at it and say, but Micah, that's how our government was running. It's ran that it's a vote of the people, and what the majority says, the majority wins. I understand that. But even the Bible says that the majority can end up being wrong. Some might look at it and say, well, we're not wanting the minority to overrule the majority. Well, if the minority is sticking with what the truth is and what is moral and what is good, then we're needing to stick with that, and not just simply because it's a majority-minority thing. Good evening, caller. What's the Bible say?
That's one thing I was talking to Danny Marshall about. Jesus, when the Pharisees were asking him about paying tribute in Matthew 22, he says, render unto Caesar the things that are Caesar's, and unto God the things that are God's. If Danville wanted to boost the economy, look at the tax revenue they're missing out on people that are claiming to be godly individuals, but they're not rendering unto God the things that are God's.
Absolutely.
Neither are they rendering unto the government the things that are the government's.
Right.
They're getting off tax-free. And I told him, I said, if City Council would do a little investigation, they would see that the church that meets at 120 American Legion Boulevard, we pay our taxes. What kind of godly people would we be if our neighbors around us are not are required to pay taxes, but yet we choose not to.
Right. And
that's what's happening over there at Campbell's location. He's got one of the biggest churches in the city of Danville, and all of the housing developments around him are the poorest in the city, and they're paying taxes, and yet he's getting off tax-free.
Right. That's right. And and some might, and I'm sure those that are watching know that this is Mark. We're in the same boat together. Some might look at that and say, well, Micah, wouldn't that end up, we're benefiting from that tax exemption? But I would say, that the difference is that we're not using that tax exemption that the government is giving to us for our own personal gain. And I would say that's what you're presenting, isn't it, Mark? That they are, Campbell and different ones like that. They're taking that and they're putting it in their pocket.
Exactly.
I mean, these jets and different things that they actually end up purchasing, they don't purchase it themselves. It's the church that purchases these things, and guess what? They don't pay any taxes on that.
Exactly. That's what I'm saying. If they would do a little investigating too, they're not rendering unto God the things that belong to God. They're teaching false doctrine.
Yeah. And that's going on. I mean, you got different ones. Some of the pastors, big pastors, their name escapes me. Out in Texas, they have a huge mansion that's sitting on hundreds of acres or thousands of acres in Texas, but it's tax exempt because it's there. It's under the thing of parsonage.
Yeah.
And it's just
look at the city of churches, so-called Danville, Virginia, and everybody, you can go online and get ordained or whatever.
Yeah.
And get your tax-free papers. I mean, probably more than half the city of Danville is living tax-free.
Yeah. Oh yeah, yeah. With all the ones that are in these different churches.
Look at the churches in these little mini malls and strip malls and whatever.
Yeah.
3 or 4 are there lined up together.
Right. That's right.
Don't mean to take up no more of your time. Good program.
No, that's good. That's a good point. That's a great point. Thank you for that.
All right.
All right. And ladies and gentlemen, that's right. And like I mentioned, some might say, well, isn't that going to affect y'all too? I mean, if they really did their homework and did their investigation, they're going to find out that we're not abusing what it is that the government has given to us. You look at all these others, and you'll find out there's all types of corruption that's going on. And it's all being done under the guise of, well, this is for the church. Is it really? Is it really? And like Mark is saying, if they did some investigation, they'd be finding out, you know what? This does not qualify, this does not fall under, in which the guidelines for, tax exemption and religious organizations is very broad, and that's the reason why they're able to get away with things. But that's a very good point. We're wanting to look for tax revenue. Look at some of these corrupt churches, like where Larry Campbell is and Lonzo Jones are. The amount of money that's coming in there. So let's move a little bit forward, a little bit more here, about 15 minutes or so. Titus chapter 3, verses 1 through 3. We've been looking at some statistics. Let's know some things that the Bible has to say. Paul would write to Titus and he would say, put them in mind to be subject to principalities and powers, to obey magistrates, to be ready to every good work. So there's what Mark was mentioning a moment ago. I have no problem paying my taxes if they in fact are going towards the things that they're supposed to be going towards. I like smooth roads on which I'm able to travel. I like being able to have indoor plumbing and electricity. I like my air conditioner and heating. And my taxes pay that. So if they're wanting, but the problem is, and that's exactly what gambling is going to do. I do not gamble. I do not play the lottery, but I do pay my taxes. What about these people that do gamble, playing the lottery and these different things? They're not going to be able to pay their taxes. So who ends up getting punished for that? Not only is the one who gambles away their living going to be punished, but I'm going to be punished because I then have to pay extra so as to make up what they're not paying. Who wins? This is not going to work. You're stealing from one another. And those that are already doing their part, they then have to end up going over so as to make up for those that are not. And when we're considering what it is that's actually going to end up transpiring, here's our report again. The President, Congress, governors, what do we have here? When the NORC examined the nearby presence of gambling facilities as a contributing factor in the incidence of problem and pathological gambling in the general population, and examining combined data from its telephone and patron surveys, NORC found that the presence of gambling facility within 50 miles roughly doubles the prevalence of problem and pathological gamblers. Within a 50-mile radius, more gamblers, problematic gamblers, pathological gamblers, it's going to double. What are these people with problematic gambling going to do? They're going to run out of money and they're going to steal. And since they've run out of money, they're not going to be able to pay their taxes, which means that good citizens like myself and others are going to have to start making up the slack. Now here's another report from 2000. And notice what the effects of casino gambling, crime, quality of life in new casino jurisdictions. We'll get to that in just a moment after we go to this call. Good evening, caller. On What's the Bible Say?
Yeah, can you speak a little louder?
Can I speak louder? Am I needing to speak louder?
Oh, okay. I can barely hear you. I can hear you better now. But anyway, if you remember back when they established the lottery, it was supposed to reduce the real estate tax for schools. But that's when later on the real estate tax almost triple, double. Well, really, I'd say triple, because school is not what it used to be. When I was in elementary school, it was not even it used to be like a half a pint of milk was a nickel. And children didn't even get a half a pint of milk unless they had a nickel to buy it. It was the children went to school. They had to buy parents had to buy the books, and now it's like children get psychological evaluation, assessment, or whatever. They get free lunches, free breakfasts, and all these freebies. But I think I'll tell you really. Also, this homosexual thing, they've started that in Danville, a small group, I think.
Mm-hmm.
What they're saying is God loves everybody, so that's pretty much swept under the rug in a way that he approves the lifestyle of homosexuals, which is incorrect because Sodom and Gomorrah was destroyed, basically because of this.
Mm-hmm.
I don't think that people... those that are supposed to be theologians, you pretty much pointing these things out, but I don't think the general theologian really preaches the Bible. They write out a sermon and it could mislead the congregation or whatever. But I think the real major problem, not only in Danville, I don't want to say Danville really, but across the country is the voters. And if they vote for these corrupt politicians, like if the governor of Virginia and the attorney general and the president of the United States or the vice president, well, not now, but I mean before, the Democrat did, approved of the same-sex marriages, and also the Supreme Court.
Mm-hmm.
If they vote for these corrupt politicians, they're just as guilty. Those church members or those people go to church or preachers. If they vote for these corrupt politicians, they're just as guilty as those people of things that they're doing.
Mm-hmm.
Corrupt things they're doing.
Yeah.
That's the way I see it.
Well, yeah,
I think that's what the major problem is.
Yeah, those are some good points. Yeah, I appreciate that call.
All right, thank you.
All right, thank you. And what he stated before, that that taxes end up going up anyways, is absolutely right. Indeed, North Carolina, a brother there, they have sweepstakes that's supposed to help with revenue, but yet they're getting hit with tax increases. In North Carolina, when they actually began their lottery process, when they allowed the state lottery to come in, they actually lost government funds because of what the lottery revenue is actually bringing in. So what states actually think that this is going to be is that, oh, this is extra money. No, in fact, once you start hitting a certain limit, other funds begin to go away because this is subsidizing. It's going to end up taking the place of what you actually have. So there again, it's not fulfilling what it's supposed to. So we're looking at this report from 2000, what they have to say about bankruptcy. Bankruptcy rates in the, now this report is centered around areas, cities that built new casinos. And they're looking at information 4 years before and 4 years after. I referenced this on the Buzz. I don't think we've had a chance to read it yet, so I'm wanting to have this evidence out there for you. Bankruptcy rates in the 8 new casino communities were compared to bankruptcy rates in 8 non-casino control communities. So even in this study, they're looking at, okay, here are places that do not have casinos. How are they doing compared to these places that just got casinos? The control communities were chosen based on their similarity to the casino communities, matched on 15 demographic, social, and economic variables. Comparison of bankruptcy rates were based on county-level data for personal bankruptcy, both Chapter 7, Chapter 13, which were analyzed for 1989, Quarter 4 through 1998, Quarter 1. The results indicate that casino gambling is associated with an increase in personal bankruptcy in 7 of the 8 communities. So 8 communities that they studied that built casinos, 7 of them, 7, experienced an increase in personal bankruptcy. In 5 of the 7 communities, the increase is statistically significant. The most significant changes in bankruptcy occurred among Chapter 13 as opposed to Chapter 7 filings. The results, it says, well, that was the end of that segment. Notice here what it goes on to say about bankruptcy. Bankruptcy is another concern that arises. Though that was just a brief overview of, quick look at the results. Here's a deeper look at their findings. Bankruptcy is another concern that arises when a community legalizes gambling. The basic argument is that problem gamblers will eventually fall into financial trouble, thereby increasing the likelihood and prevalence of bankruptcy. To determine the effect that casino gambling has on bankruptcy, we examined bankruptcy rates in our casino communities, comparing them with the matched set of controlled jurisdictions. County-level data on personal bankruptcy, including Chapter 7, Chapter 13 filings, were obtained from SMR Research Corporation. Quarterly observations on the total number of bankruptcies in each county are available in the 4th quarter, 1989, through the 1st quarter, 1998. Many studies that examine bankruptcy, including those listed above, are jurisdiction-level data provided by the U.S. Office of the Courts. These jurisdictions cross several counties and often cross state lines. The data set, here's our results. The results from comparing bankruptcy per capita per 1,000 population for total Chapter 7, Chapter 13 bankruptcy petitions are provided in Tables 4-8. The tables report average bankruptcies per capita for the period prior. Let's actually get to our results here. So here it is. Here you have Harrison County, Mississippi, Biloxi. There's more evidence would be required to make any firm conclusions. This does suggest, notice here, this does suggest a possible link between bankruptcy and the length of time a casino has been in place. The one exception, now I'm fine with talking about the exception. We'll be fair with this information. The one exception to the increase in bankruptcy was in Biloxi, Mississippi. Their bankruptcies have significantly declined since the introduction of casino gambling. This is noteworthy because of all the jurisdictions examined, Biloxi is the only one that would qualify as a destination resort. So basically, Biloxi is like Las Vegas. They are pulling enough people in that when they're looking at their primary population, there's enough people coming in that it's able to stay afloat. Destination resort casinos attract a greater percentage of their clientele from tourists or visitors, effectively exporting gambling. Now, do you think Danville's going to be able to do that? Do you think Danville is going to be able to draw enough tourists and visitors to end up making this an export? I don't think so. As a result, the economic benefits, job creation, tax revenue, spin-offs to other businesses will be greater. But the chances of that are very slim. And as we're considering this, if individuals become insolvent due to problem gambling, incurring debt that is beyond hope of being repaid, we expect the predominant increase to be in Chapter 7 filings. you're not going to be able to get away from what it is that this is going to produce. Now, this is from Sunday night when we were noticing the National Gambling Impact Study Commission report, and we were looking at their crime, but I stopped in a section that I actually should have kept going. How bad is the crime going to be? We already noted how that 80 to 90% of people in Gamblers Anonymous will tell you they did something illegal in order to get money to gamble. A lot of them do white-collar crimes, fraud, credit card, and employment theft. But notice this in Louisiana. In Louisiana, one man confessed to robbing and murdering 6 elderly individuals to feed his problem with gambling on electronic gambling devices. Now, can you imagine that? A man confessed to not only robbing, but murdering 6 elderly individuals to feed his problem with gambling. Now, some might say, well, you know, this is just where people need to practice self-control. That you can't blame the casino for his problem with gambling. But guess what? If there was no casino, would he be gambling? Now, some might say, well, he might be gambling in other things. Well, you take those things away. You take away the temptation. Don't even give them the avenue. You're not going to have the problem. But here's our city council, and they're saying, well, we're going to put it out there, and you just control yourself. And if you can't, tough. But we're saying, ladies and gentlemen, we're not even needing to go that route. We are needing people to be emboldened. We're giving you this information because one gentleman out in front of city council, he said, I wanted to say something, but I didn't want to open my mouth up and then be made to look stupid. If you have the information, then there's no need to keep silent. Be vocal, and if you have a desire to do what's right, become a member of the Lord's church. Become a true Christian that is wanting to stand up for truth and right, and let's see what we can do. And even if they do pass it, and they do build a casino and a resort, when they start facing the problems that are going to come with it, we'll be able to come along and we'll be able to say, you should have listened. Let's try to change it. I pray that it doesn't get to that point and pray that it doesn't become too late in the hour. But tonight, we're going to close on that. Appreciate very much the calls that came in. Make sure you tune into our other nights of programming, Sunday night at 9, Thursday night at 8. And until then, always ask for, what does the Bible say? Have a good night.